Hi, I'm going to tell you about canning tomatoes. This is what we will be doing in class. And just to talk a little bit about jars first so I can get them out of my way. This would be a wide mouth jar, and with a wide mouth jar you would use a wide mouth lid with a screw band, and if you would have, and this would be a quart jar. Over here we have a pint jar with a regular size lid, and then for jams and jellies you might have a half pint size jar with a regular lid size. So when you are doing your canning, you want to have your materials ready, whether you need the regular lid with a regular screw band, or you need the wide mouth lid with the wide mouth screw band. When you are going to take your lids, you need to warm this up so the sealing compound activates. So while I'm getting everything else set up, I'm going to get these into the container here, and then I will put that onto my stove so that I can warm up those lids. I have some tomatoes, and I think I'll have about 5 jars. I'm going to turn it on the lower burner. It just needs a little bit of a temperature on there. And whenever you're using a burner on the stove, you want to make sure that your burner matches your pan. Now over here I have my boiling water, and so I'm going to shut this off because an induction cooker is a little bit loud, and so just for demonstration purposes I'm going to turn down the sound on that a little bit. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you pick some tomatoes that are of good quality. They have a good skin, they have good size, not very many blemishes that are going to cause a problem as far as in the canning process. You want it clean, so these tomatoes have all been washed and cleaned, and you would like to have several so that you are ready to work with them. Need to get As you are going to work with them, I like to use some rubber gloves. And of course, the reason that we are preserving food is to keep it fresh so we can use it at a later time. What you want to accomplish when you are preserving food is to kill off the microorganisms. Bacteria and mold and yeast can all spoil your food. And so what you want to do is make sure that that food gets heated in some way so that you kill that off, and your food is going to be fresh to use at another time. Another thing we might talk about are enzymes, to make sure you inactivate enzymes, but that's more for freezing. We're going to focus on canning right now, and canning tomatoes. Tomatoes are something that are easy to grow in Minnesota, and so a lot of people like to have canned tomatoes on hand when they are going to be making their spaghetti sauces, their salsa, different things. Now you can can a salsa. I do have a recipe that we will do in class sometimes for a salsa dish. And what I like to do, that I'm going to do today, is I'm preserving the tomatoes for myself, and I like to use them in chili. So I'm just going to have the tomatoes plain and work on that. Now, of course, we want to kill off the spoilage. We want to make sure that our jars and everything is hot, and it will get hotter in the water. So what I do at home is I will boil my jars, or I will wash my jars in the dishwasher in hot water, and then I will just leave that until I'm ready to use the jars so they are hot and ready to go. If you are home, you might want to put the jars upside down in hot water and heat those jars up. If you do not heat the jar before you use it, the jar will break in the boiling canner, and you will lose all your product. And so you want to make sure you are doing that. Now canning, the whole process of canning is to preserve your food by preparing it, putting it into a jar. When you heat it in the canner, it is going to warm the jar up, and then as it cools, it forms a vacuum seal. You have 2 methods of doing your food. One is called raw pack, which we are doing today. The other one is called hot pack, where you would take your tomatoes after you do this method of getting the skins off. You would take them and then you would heat them in a kettle and put them hot into a jar. A lot of times if you do fruit with a hot pack method, it stays nicer in the jar. It doesn't float, which is just a personal preference or whatever. But with tomatoes, I like to do the raw pack because I never know how many I'm going to have, and it just kind of saves me a little bit of time. So when you are working with the tomatoes, what I did was I used the boiling water to heat the tomato. The next thing I want to do is to remove the stem and the core. So you kind of get down there a little bit of ways. You put the tomatoes in the water for about 30 to 60 minutes. Then they should peel off. This is not as ripe of a tomato. I'm going to show you a different one. So I'm removing the stem and the core. The skin should just easily pull off. The reason it didn't on that first one is it's a little bit not as ripe of a tomato or ready to go. So I'm going to just set that one aside, because I want to have nice sweet tomatoes in my jar to put into my chili. So as you skin each tomato, I also make sure you remove that blossom end. And you see the skin's pulled easily off. You then take your tomato, and sometimes you might want to remove some of the seeds and the inner side. If you want a thicker sauce, sometimes I like to leave that in my chili. It's all up to what you want to do. And these are an early girl tomato, which means, well, it's just a variety of tomato. Aroma tomato is going to have a little bit more, where you're going to have a little thicker sauce if you are making some type of a sauce. And so a lot of people like to buy them when they're making different things, if you want a thick salsa or a runny salsa. So I'm going to be removing these and getting my jar out of the dishwasher.